Hi everybody, this is Professor Quine and this is the part of speech webinar on prepositions. I believe this is the last part of speech webinar before I move on to independent clauses. So anyway, I have up on the screen the page from EnglishClub.com that covers prepositions, that tells you, and they are marketing a book on English prepositions. If you have a need to know more about prepositions, get the book, but otherwise I think you can just look around the internet and get a whole bunch of lists of prepositions. I doubt that the prepositions I'm scrolling through right now are all of the prepositions in the English language, but this is many of them. You can see some of, on, in, to is considered a preposition, under, off, inside, into, with, within, lots of prepositions there. So go to EnglishClub.com and key in prepositions and you will see that list. Okay, so let's talk about prepositions. If you will remember back when I did the first webinar, I think it was, on parts of speech, which was nouns. One of the types of nouns I went over was the verbal, and I said there are two kinds of verbals. One is the gerund, and we went over it during that webinar. And I said the other is the infinitive, and we're going to put that on the back burner until we go over prepositions. So now we're going to go over infinitives. And we're going to do that by also going over prepositions. As you just saw, I went through a list of prepositions, but the major reason that you need to know prepositions is because of the prepositional phrase, and perhaps you remember that, learning about that a long time ago, and you need just a refresher, or maybe you never learned about them at all. So let's hit the high points here about prepositional phrases. So what I've done is I've come up with this comparison chart that you see up on the screen right now. And under the column that says prepositional phrases, I tell you first of all that the prepositional phrase always begins in a preposition. And you saw that long list of prepositions, so there are lots of prepositions. One of those prepositions is the word to, So some prepositional phrases begin with to, but certainly not all of them. But a prepositional phrase has to begin with a preposition. Now compare that to the infinitive phrase that always begins, only begins with the word to. And then you know why this is an issue, because you have to learn how to distinguish between a prepositional phrase that begins with to and an infinitive phrase that begins with to. So let's drill down a little bit to see what we can learn here. A prepositional phrase can be two words or more than two words. So it can be two or more words, okay? An infinitive phrase is only two words. So there's a difference there, but then again, some prepositional phrases can be just two words, right? So we still need a little bit more information to be able to tell the two apart. Let's look at this next characteristic. The last word in a prepositional phrase is a noun or an object pronoun. Remember, and if you don't know object pronouns, I encourage you to go back and look at the part of speech webinar on pronouns. Look them up in your book, look them up on Purdue Owl and EnglishClub.com. See the differences. A quick example would be the difference between the pronoun they, which can be used in the subject of a sentence, and them, which cannot be used in the subject of a sentence because it's an object pronoun. Okay, so I'm going to leave that to you to go and find out about. But a prepositional phrase, the last word is a noun or an object pronoun. The last word, meaning the second word, right? Because an infinitive is only two words. The last word in an infinitive phrase is the base of a verb. Okay, so there's a big difference. The prepositional phrase ends in a noun or an object pronoun. The infinitive phrase ends in the base of a verb. Big difference there, okay? And here's another thing you need to know. A prepositional phrase can never be the subject of a sentence. Never. The infinitive phrase can never be the verb of a sentence. Never, okay? So make sure you have these notes down. And then let's go and look at this sentence right here. I like to go to the store and to the park. I like to go to the store and to the park. What I want you to do is to jot that sentence down, and then I want you to pause this webinar, put it on pause, and I want you to go into the sentence and circle any infinitives that you see and bracket any prepositional phrases. So circle any infinitives and bracket, and by bracket I mean this, right? Any prepositional phrases that you see, and then restart the webinar and I'll go over the answer with you. Okay, so I'm going to pause for just a second while you do all of that. Pause the webinar, write this down, do your circling and your bracketing, and then start it back up. Okay. Okay, so let's go back over this. Let's go over this. Let's see what you decided were the infinitives and the prepositional phrases. Well, I think that to go is an infinitive, and because I'm working on a keyboard, it's really hard for me to circle that. So what I'm going to do is say to go. I'll just make a note here, is an infinitive phrase. And why am I saying that? Because it begins with to, right? It's only 2 words, right? The last word is the base of a verb. Go, not going, not gone, but go, the base of that verb, right? And obviously it's not working as the verb in the sentence, and we'll talk about that in a second. Okay, so to go is the infinitive phrase, so I'm going to get rid of that. And I didn't see any other infinitives. I did see 2 other twos here, but they weren't 2-word phrases that ended in the base of a verb. Instead, what I have are two prepositional phrases, a compound prepositional phrase. And if you don't know what a compound is, go and listen to the webinar on, I think it's adjectives and adverbs. But anyway, 2 prepositional phrases here, to the store and to the park. Both begin with to, which a prepositional phrase doesn't have to begin with to, but these do. They are 2 or more words, in this case both of them 3 words, and they end in nouns, store and park, right? So those are prepositional phrases. So I'm going to get rid of those for a second. So we know what those are, right? So you bracketed those, and I'm just going to delete them out for a second. So what I'm left with right now are I, like, and. Those are the 3 words I'm left with. I is what? It's a pronoun. In specific, a singular first person subject pronoun. And if you don't know about that, go back and look at the pronoun webinar and do a little reading on pronouns. What is like? Like is the verb of this sentence. And let me ask you, if you've listened to the verb webinar, you should be able to quickly answer this. Is like a regular or an irregular verb? Tick, 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 tick. Okay, I'll give you the answer. It's a regular verb, right? Because you can add ed to like and make it past tense, liked. And that's how we know when a verb is regular. And then there's the word and if you listen to the webinar on conjunctions, coordinating conjunctions, all that other stuff, you know that this is one of the fanboys, also known as a coordinating conjunction. I'm just going to abbreviate that and leave that to you to go check out. If you don't know what I'm writing here, if that doesn't make any sense, you need to go check into it, right? Okay, and we know that who likes here? I. So there's my subject, and we know that like is the verb, so here is the verb of the sentence, right? Okay, there you go. So hopefully you got all of that, and you understood what I just explained. If not, okay, let's do one more. Could you copy down this sentence for me? The carton of cigars is or are on the table. Some of you have already met with me in class and heard this example, so just bear with us while we go over it one more time. If you've never heard this example before, please write it down and figure out on your own. Obviously, don't talk to anybody in the room with you and stuff. Try to do this on your own. Try to figure out if is or are is the verb of this sentence. Pause the webinar, and then when you come back, we'll talk about it, okay? Okay, I'm getting started again with this one. The first thing you want to do is to remember that, an infinitive can never be the verb of a sentence, and the prepositional phrase can never be the subject of a sentence. So if I ask when I first get started with this lecture in a regular classroom, if I ask students just off the top of your head, what do you think the verb is here? Many of them will say are, because they think cigars is the subject of this sentence, but it can't be, because you see of cigars is a prepositional phrase, and we know that a prepositional phrase can never be the subject of a sentence, right? So that's not the subject of your sentence, so we've got to get rid of that. Did you see any other prepositional phrases here? You should have. This one right here, on the table, that's a prepositional phrase right there, so we can get rid of that as well. Okay, so that leaves us with the carton and your verb choice, is or are. Well, what's the subject here? Obviously it's carton, the noun carton. How many cartons do we have? Just one. Oh, I double underline that there. We just have one, so the verb would be what? It would be is. Is the verb of this sentence. And what kind of a verb is that? Is that regular or irregular? It's irregular. And specifically a state of being verb is one of those descendants of be, right? It's very inactive. The word the, I think I've already gone over this. The is an article, which is a type of adjective. And there are two kinds of articles. I'll do this because I'm really not sure if I did this before or not. There are two kinds of articles. One is the, let me get this over a little bit. One is the definite article, and that is the. And then there is the indefinite article, and that is a and an. You use the article a in front of a word beginning with a consonant sound. Not just a consonant sound. I'll demo that in a second. And you use an in front of a word beginning with a vowel sound. So let me show you a couple of examples here. Let's say we have hero, we have hour. Okay, we agree, I think, that both hero and hour begin with a consonant H, right? Remember, the vowels are A, E, I, O, U, and some people throw in Y. But we all agree that H is generally considered a consonant, right? But do we say a or an hero? Do we say a, do we say a or an hour? Well, let's think about it. A hero? A hour? No. We usually say, usually with hero it's a hero, right? But with hour we usually use an, don't we? Why is that? Because you don't hear the H sound. The H is silent, right? So when you have a consonant sound at the front of the word, you can use the A. But when you have a soft sound, a vowel sound like hour, you don't hear the H, you use an and. Okay, so there's the quick and dirty on articles for you. Okay, so there's this is what the is an article, or you can also call it an adjective. It's not the subject of the sentence. The subject is carton, which is a noun, and the verb is. So that's all I want to tell you right now about prepositional phrases and infinitive phrases. You can go and look into them a little bit more if you'd like, and I will be talking to you soon. Bye-bye.